Students scooped dried beans out of a bag and counted the number of beans in the scoop. Each time the number of beans in the scoop was recorded in the dot plot below. When a student was asked to make a list of the data displayed in the dot plot, the student responded 1, 3, 7, 7, 5, 1. Critique the student's response. So it's important to remember what it is that we're finding data on, right? And so here, what we're finding data on is the number of beans, right? The number of beans in a scoop, right? And so when we look at the numbers that the student has here, 1, 3, 7, 7, 5, 1, that is not the number of beans in the scoop, right? They didn't have 1 bean and then 3 beans and then 7 beans and then 7 beans. That's not what this is, right? So the numbers that they've given me are actually the frequencies, right? Which is not the actual data, right? So if you're making a list of the data displayed in this dot plot, you would not just list the frequencies, right? So the frequencies make sense. It's how many times each of these occurred. This occurred once, this occurred 3 times, 7 times, 7 times, 5 times, 1 time, right? But that's not the actual data. So they gave the frequency when they should have given us the actual data, right? Also, I think it's important to note here that they didn't give me all the frequencies. They gave me the ones that weren't 0. So like they didn't mention that there were no scoops that came out that were 25 and there were no scoops that came out with 26 beans, and especially this one. I would at the very least, like, I can understand not listing the things that are lower than the lowest or higher than the highest, but especially leaving that one out is a problem, right? So like when you say 1, 3, 7, 7, 5, 1, that makes it sound like that's the number of scoops that you got for each one of these, but you left out 28. So at the very least, I would have liked to have seen a 0 there. However, to do what they were asked to do, to actually make a list of the data, you would actually need to list not just the frequencies, right? So let's do that. So what would the correct answer look like? So the lowest one here I can see is 27 beans in the first scoop. So I would list a 27. Now that one only occurred once, right? So then I don't have any 28s. If I'm just listing the data, I would not have to mention that. If I'm listing the frequencies though, like I mentioned, they should have had a 0 there, right? In between the 1 and the 3. So then what's the next one? They had scoops that were 29, and I'm just going to kind of cross these off as I get to them. So they had 3 scoops that were 29. So that would be like saying, this one is 29 beans, this one's 29, this one's 29, and that takes care of those 3. So I'm going to actually list out all of the data values here, and I should have, so if I add my frequencies together, see, 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 7 is 11, plus another 7 would be 18, plus 5 would be 23, plus 1 would be 24. So we're actually going to list out all 24 scoops, right? So next would be 30, and I had 7 of those. So I would list the number 30 7 times. There's 4, 5, 6, 7. So that takes care of those. They had 7 scoops that had 31 beans in it. So I'm going to go down here and list those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we had beans that had 32 scoops. There were 5 of those. So I'm going to list the number 32 5 times. And then finally, I had 1 scoop that had 33 beans in it. And so I'm just going to count and double check that I get 24 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and sure enough, there's 24.